Hey, good morning. It's Wednesday morning. I hope you're great today. I hope you've had a great start to your week. Wherever you found yourself. I know it's been a great week for me. I'm looking forward to our time of reflection this morning, but also looking forward to our Bible study tonight at St. Matthew's. I would invite you to join us as we are in the midst of our study on the 8 life enriching practices of United Methodist. Tonight we're going to talk about prayer, what prayer can mean to our lives. So I would invite you to join me tonight on Facebook, on social media. You can join us. On our website. Lots of places to join our Bible study. So I would hope you would be present with us tonight as we do that. I know that you'll be blessed as we talk more about prayer and how that can strengthen our life and our families and our church and strengthen all that we are. So today we're continuing with the New Testament as we fill out our bookshelves. Only 2 more sections left to go till our bookshelf is complete. Today we're picking up what's called the Catholic letters. These are letters. Yesterday we talked about Paul's letters. Paul's were specific, written by Paul to a specific people. The Catholic letters are different. They are not generally, some of them we know who the author is, some of them we don't. But they're not written to specific people in the same way that Paul's letters are. So Paul would have been writing a letter to Corinth, for instance, or a letter to Rome. The Catholic letters, remember Catholic means universal in our creed. When we say the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed, we say the Holy Catholic Church. That is not a reference to any denomination, but it's a reference to the church that is universal. A church that's bigger than one local church or one local group, but a church that's made up of all believers and all races and all nations and all places. And so these letters were written more to the church at large, written more to a general church setting. Almost call them an open letter or blog post if you want to. I mean, that might often be one way to look at it. But these were general letters written to the church. Now they may be written to a specific subgroup within the church, but they're written more almost as sermons than they are as letters, if you will. Like that might be a better way to look at them as sermons. First we see Hebrews. These Catholic letters are Hebrews. Hebrews. We don't know who wrote it. Historically, in a lot of ways, it was attributed to Paul. Most scholars do not think it was Paul, just based off the writing structure and the way it's possible Paul wrote it. If he did, that's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. But it'd be very different from anything that Paul wrote. So most scholars don't think that Paul wrote Hebrews. Once again, it's possible. It doesn't really change a whole lot if he does. So we don't really know who wrote it. I like to jokingly say there's some guesses. Some say Apollos wrote it. Some say Barnabas wrote it. I always say Barnabas just because I like Barnabas. There's no reason that I can think of to know for certain that Barnabas wrote it. I just think Barnabas is awesome and he deserves a book in the Bible. But other than that, but Hebrews is a really interesting book. It's in many ways a reflect. If Romans is a book of theology I mentioned earlier, Hebrews is in many ways a reflection on Jewish heritage and Jewish history. And it's painstakingly written, particularly the first few chapters, to show us that Jesus Christ is greater than every other thing. He's greater than Abraham. He's greater than the angels. He's greater than the prophets, showing over and over and over and over and over and over again that Jesus Christ is greater than these other things. That it's all about Jesus. So Hebrews is written to somebody, to a group, to a church, or to churches that have a pretty strong understanding of the Old Testament. A really good understanding of the Old Testament is a great help in making sense out of Hebrews, because there's so many things in this book that are explicit Old Testament references or explicit Old Testament teachings. And so and how Jesus Christ is greater than the ways of the the New Covenant. There's a whole chapter on Melchizedek, who was a character, a person early on in Moses' story. In Abraham's story. And so he's really referenced just twice in Hebrews, and he's referenced in back in Genesis. We have the whole Hall of Faith chapter of Hebrews 11, which shows the faith of the Old Testament saints. And so we see that understanding the Old Testament is an essential part of our experience as Christians today. So Hebrews is a neat book. James kind of continues on. James is written to believers, and James is a man. James rakes you over the coals. James doesn't play around. James is like, okay, cool. Talk about your faith all you want to, but show me something. Faith without works is dead, is what James tells us. James really doesn't play around. True religion is to keep yourself unstained from the world and to take care of the widows and the orphans. I mean, James holds our feet to the fire in how we live our lives. James is really about how our faith impacts our lives. But when you read James, you got to understand James is written to a group that already believes. So he's not trying to convert people that don't believe. He's talking about, okay, cool, you got faith, awesome. You've already said you got faith. Faith is assumed, great. Show me. Because talking about your faith without any works is of no value. So James is not trying to convert folks who don't believe. James is trying to encourage folks who do believe to be faithful. Then you have Peter's 2 letters. Peter's doing some teachings about correct doctrine. Really, honestly, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd John, and then and 3rd John, and then Jude, these last 3, really are written about correct doctrine. There was a lot of incorrect doctrine being taught in the church early on. And these letters really hammer in on the importance of teaching correctly about who Jesus Christ is. There's some really wonderful verses within all of these chapters. I would encourage you to read these books. You've heard me quote 1 Peter 3:15. Always be ready to give a defense for the hope that you have. 1 John is full of so much great teaching about forgiveness and trust in God and love. So 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John are really about the importance of correct doctrine, the importance of believing rightly about Christ, because there was so much incorrect teaching about who Jesus Christ was back then, and now as well. That's why it's important for us to know the creeds, for us to understand explicitly who Jesus Christ is, fully God, fully human, given for our sins, for the sake of the world, resurrected, ascended, will return. Knowing who Jesus is the essentials. I mean, that is the essential. If you don't have Jesus, then the rest of it's off. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, 1st, 2nd Peter, and then Jude in the same way. Jude is also written to encourage the church to hold to correct doctrine. Back then, you had wandering itinerant preachers who would wander into a town and who would teach, and you didn't know if they were teaching correct doctrine or not. So these books really establish this is what we believe. And if someone's teaching something other than this, then don't listen to them. Don't trust them. Just because somebody rolls in their town and says they're a preacher, it doesn't mean anything. What do they teach? What are they telling you? What are they saying about Jesus? That's what's important. Check out those things. If those things check out, listen to them. But if they don't, then don't listen to them. So these books really establish doctrine. So you see really in these Catholic letters, you see a great emphasis upon the Christian life, what our Christian life should look like. You see a great emphasis upon Christian doctrine, what we should believe. So these Catholic letters were written by a variety of people to a variety of places, without in many ways the same specificity that Paul had. There's a lot of great teaching within these books, particularly now, very relevant for the moment we find ourselves in now. So that is the last set of letters. So we've seen in the shelves of the New Testament, the Gospels and the book of Acts, Paul's letters, and the Catholic letters. And tomorrow we're going to wrap up in our time of the New Testament by looking at the book of Revelation, an apocalyptic work. So join us tomorrow if we talk about Revelation. Join me tonight for Bible study, 6 o'clock, St. Matthew's, online, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our website. Hope to see you tonight for Bible study. And then I will see you tomorrow morning for our morning reflection. Have a great day. See ya.